Alright, what's up guys, Azura here, and we are finally here at the end of the month for our monthly tier list. And for once, I think the meta has changed quite a bit compared to the last like 3 months where it's just been like a snagnet like same two clans. So without further ado, we'll just go over everything. So first off, some stuff I removed. I got rid of Metal Board, got rid of Bugs, got rid of Gav, just because like Gav is just worse Celestials. The other two decks kind of just disappeared off the face of the earth. So got rid of those. Tier, same thing, SBA, really good decks, playable decks. So yeah, without further ado, just begin. So I'll save all the new stuff for later, and I'll just go over like all like the stuff that I'm just gonna place down for now. So first off, realistically speaking, I don't even think anything here is particularly in B tier. There's nothing here that I'm just like, that's like terrible, you know. So like, I guess I'll just do like, I definitely think gears aren't that good right now. I think Vanguard probably belongs down here, even with like the other support. Probably Brawlers, Blade Master. It's like those are basically I basically just split up like the lower end of B tier, more or less. I don't even think the card. I honestly think it's just gears. Now that I look at it, I think actually this might be gears. The gears are kind of doo doo. Yeah, I honestly think gears are just worse than like these other decks, to be perfectly honest. It's has like a pretty good kill turn, like when they're a 5, but like getting them there is like really hard. So I don't know, like the time leap deck feels really weird. It just doesn't feel there's a payoff to it. And then like the old deck is still just the old deck, which like is just kind of there. So I mean, just like it's just kind of here. I definitely feel like it's worse than a lot of these decks. I guess Blade Master or the Cross probably belong here too. Maybe not the Cross. I actually do think my opinion of the Cross has gone up quite a bit, but like, it's really. I think all these like 3 attack decks that like are just not that good probably just do belong here. Like Blade Master kind of basic bitch deck where you just kind of retire stuff. Vanquisher just kind of retires and binds stuff. That being said, I think Vanquisher actually does not belong. Actually, these actually don't belong here. Blade Master belongs here. The Cross probably belongs here too. Now that I look at it, yeah. I think the Cross probably belongs here too. I think Legend's actually a little better than these decks. So yeah, I think these decks start to fall off just a little bit. I think still fairly playable, but definitely feel like they're a little lower than these decks. And the reason why I say Vanquisher and Brawlers don't belong here is just because of the way the current meta is shaping, which we'll get to once we get to the best decks. So yeah. So next up for A tiers, I think Thoughts belong here, Hari belongs here, probably Vanquisher, Brawlers, the Legend, the Chaos. I'll save Chaos for later. But Chaos, I'll explain this last, but Chaos, any other decks? Messiah, and probably Revengers too, belong there. This might be a little controversial pick. I think Angels belong top of A tier as well. I don't think Angels belong in S, so Angels, I think the rest of these will belong all in S here, so let me just order this real quick. I think Angels are by far the best deck in this tier. I think Legend is actually a pretty good deck. I think Legend probably belongs here. Vanquisher belongs here just because of the current, the way the current meta is right now. Same with Brawlers, and then these two decks are just kind of here. Yeah, this looks more or less about right. Something like this. So let's go from the end to the top. So first off, Revengers. Revengers just another basic ass bitch deck, and do the Revengers things. They've been doing the same thing since what is it, 12, and it just got better with Legion. Revengers are Revengers. They do Revenger things, and yeah, I don't even want to talk more about this deck. This deck's been doing the same thing for the past who knows how many sets now. So yeah, Revengers. Next up, we have Messiah. I don't know if it's behind the Starvaders. The thing is, Starvaders are very polarizing. They're either really good or really bad. So I think I'll actually put Messiah. Because Messiah's overall a little bit better. So Starvaders is one of the decks that came out of this set. More specifically, Chaos. So us with Lock historically in Zero, it's either really good or kind of mediocre. I think Chaos is actually a pretty a pretty good deck. The only issue is that if the other deck has ways to deal with you, i.e. they have resist or have ways to just clear out their entire front row, you just kind of play a vanilla game. Kind of looks a really bad deck, but yeah. So like the issue with Chaos has always been like they either play really well against you or they do really bad against you. And right now in the current meta, a lot of decks do really well against you. So that's the issue there. Like you look at Asha, they have infinite resist. Fish has a bunch of resist. Granblue can stack their own board off. Altmile gets fucked by it. Aquaforce obviously gets fucked by it, but yeah, very polarizing matchups. You either curb stop decks or you get fucked by decks completely. So yeah, but overall it's a very solid deck. I think it's better than these decks. And luck at the end of the day is still a really degenerate mechanic. They give you one farm to lock, that thing probably stays locked for the entire game. So yeah, very polarizing matchups. It's either really, really good or really, really bad, but since the meta leans more towards it being bad, I'll put it to the lower end of the list. Messiah is a little less reliant on these locks, like as long as they can unlock enough stuff, like as long as they can unlock some background stuff, they can still like crit and do like okay multi attacks and stuff like that. So gets a little less fucked by the meta. So yeah, that's why Messiah's a little bit ahead of Chaos. And then next up we have the Pale X Hari and Thoughts. I think Thoughts are still better. I hate this deck with a passion, but this deck is very consistent. Everything in this deck is basically just combo piece. Like you shit stuff in the soul, you like click buttons and you hit their face and they can die. But and they have cross-ride base. But this deck is just, the Thoughts do thought things. Nothing else much to say about it. Thoughts do thought things. Yeah. Hari is a very interesting deck. I think Hari is basically just watered down Granblue in every conceivable way. They don't have infinite counterblast. Their pieces are not everything. Is not anything you want it to be, because Hari as a deck is basically all random soul charge, so it's a little awkward there. But yeah, I think Hari has a ceiling as high as Granblue's. Could be higher, I don't actually know, I don't play this deck that often, but has a really high ceiling. The only issue is its consistency is very much lacking as composed to Granblue's, where Granblue has Obadiah, the big scary snowman, to mill everything. Cards from hand becomes cards that drop, meaning that's more pieces you use for later. Hari has random soul charge, and if you don't put them back in the soul, they die. And the other issue with Hari is that leaving up an actual front row without having the Magia back in the soul is kind of awkward sometimes. So it just feels like worse Granblue in every way. That being said, it's not a bad deck by any means, I don't think. But when there's a deck that just does what you do but better in almost every way, not a reason to put this deck any higher, in my opinion, at least. So yeah. And then finally, the two Narukami decks. These two decks belong here solely because they have a good matchup against like the premier best deck in the meta right now, being Asha. So spoilers alert, I think Asha is the best deck. And yeah, Brawlers and Vanquisher, because Asha wants to recycle all their pieces, Vanquisher binds all the pieces, so they only get one use out of everything. They cannot infinitely loop 3 against every other deck like you can against every other deck. Brawlers also have access to the same thing, except Brawlers can just also punch over everything on a Jingle Flower turn, because Turbo and Buster are like huge and they hit way over 21, so you can kill up their entire front row and kill up the 3 with the Jingle Flower skill on it, so you just kill everything off at once. So these two decks get a pretty high spot in this month, just because as long as Asha is the quote-unquote best deck, or like the deck that's like the boogeyman of the meta, these two decks will be good just because these decks directly counter that, despite them overall, in my opinion, being like worse than most of these decks, solely because these two decks deal with Asha really, really well. I think that just because of that they are in a better spot than all these other decks that are like slightly better than it, but perform much worse against Asha. That makes sense. And also helps that Naru also does relatively well against Granblue, because they can bind pieces and drop. They can bind stuff and drop for fish, so they can re-legion them back, and they can also bind Grey Tooth and drop for Ultimate to not recycle. So has a relatively good matchup spread across the board, but just because of the fact that the decks themselves aren't amazing, I don't want to put them any higher than this. And honestly, I probably should put them higher than the Greats, or the Legend, so I will. But we'll talk about the Legend now. The Legend is in my opinion, just the better Kagura deck right now. The Legend's pretty good card. It's a plus, because on ride you just get the +1 to hand. Tar is a pretty good inclusion. These other decks can play it too, but it's a little bit worse. I shouldn't do like this actually. Yeah. So the Legend first, the Tar is a plus. Playing pure Overlord means you also have access to Nahalem. So the Cross by extent also has access to this, but and this deck just does it a little bit better. But the Cross, or rather the Legend, is just like the overall. It's just a good stuff Kagero deck. But like the main thing about this deck that makes it so good is because for 4 CB, which is not that hard to get because Root Flare is free. 4 CB, you can do 2 lines of lethal where you can, or there are 5, you can go overload the front row and then either go for 4 checks to face using the legend, or you can clear the board and guard trick them with no bell, which is, I think, is pretty good. So I think legend is actually just has like a good, it's just a really good like mid-rangey kind of deck where it just kind of like draws a bunch of cards in that deck because it's still Kagero at the end of the day. And plus is well enough now, not like amazing, but plus is well enough. You have a good solid win con, and just overall a very solid deck. Just Kagero does Kagero things, and I think the legend does it best right now. Next month we're getting Blade Master, so that could change for all we know. But for now, I think legend is probably the best Kagero deck, and I think it is actually sizably better. I think it's definitely better than Blade Master. I don't know if it's better than the Cross. I feel like the Cross got enough support from this set as well that you can probably argue be like close to it or somewhere around here. I'm actually gonna move the Cross up. Actually, I think I'm actually gonna move the Cross up to like here-ish, because it doesn't think the Cross is a Legion deck, but I think that does hinder. So I think I should move back down. The thing is, like, Naru, if Naru is like a good meta call for against the current meta, then the Cross gets fucked by Vanquisher, so by extent it makes it a worse deck. So I think I actually will leave that just because of that. And then finally we have Angel Feather. Angel Feather, just a really good stall deck. They can sandbag a bunch of turns, they heal a bunch with Wrath and stuff. Loop Legions has pretty good kill lines with Harut into Harut, or whatever, so that's pretty good. Just the overall solid deck, it just stalls a bunch and then has like a relatively okay kill turn with the rear, so yeah. And not much else to say. Angel Feather things. Wrath, just when the heal on command is really powerful, and that's basically it. And finally, we have the tier 1s. So, I think Asha is by far the best deck right now, without a doubt. I think Altmile actually followed right behind it. So, wow, these blue decks actually got dumpstered on this month. I think Night Rose is here. I think the 2 fish decks, Roan, if you don't, Roan I just put as a representative for every fish deck that isn't duos, and then finally Aquaforce. Honestly, I actually think Aquaforce belongs down here now. I'm actually gonna bump Aquaforce down to the bottom tier of A tier, or top of A tier. So. Aquaforce, to me, just feels like a worse Granblue, and then a worse Granblue, a worse Altmile, and for the love of them, cannot fucking deal with Asha at all whatsoever. Aquaforce is still a very disgusting deck going second, but if Asha can stabilize, Asha will just shut you out of the game for 2 turns in a row with Jingle Flower plus Thuria. Aquaforce has a worse kill turn than Night Rose, has around the same kill turn as Altmile, but the difference is these 2 decks can put cards out early and they can just consistently put up double intercept every turn while also not being overly piece reliant. So Aquaforce just straight up feel like a worse version of Night Rose and Granblue now, at least to me after thinking about it. And the fact that it has a terrible matchup against the best deck right now just makes it just not as good. So I actually do think that just because of how the meta has turned out right now, that Starbusts or Landworth, whatever, deserves to be 1 tier lower. And then Bermuda. Bermuda is like the opposite of these decks. Bermuda is just, they do Bermuda things. Duos have done the same thing for like who knows however many sets now. The Mir Victoria list, which is probably the most prominent list of these of the other Bermuda decks, being like Mir, Loris, whatever. They do like very similar things. They kind of just like survive with PGs and stuff, and like slowly will you out for like two maybe 3 checks a turn. But the issue I don't think that makes fish isn't as good because these decks just kill you faster than you can survive and kill them back. So that's the issue there. They kill you faster than you can guard their attack. So that's why I think fish belongs down here. Belongs lower on the tier list. I still think fish is really good. Don't get me wrong. I still think that fish is a very good deck, but just at the moment, I do think it's a little worse than these decks. And finally, we have Granblue. Granblue has the highest. I'm pretty sure Granblue is the highest kill ceiling in the game, just because of how much CC they can do mid battle with all their combo and stuff. Granblue, very high kill ceiling, very aggressive early game, which is something that most decks do not have, because Granblue, with the MK at the start, they just start pushing cards out and start hitting you with them, and then later on they just call them back from drop, because that's where you probably sent them unless you're playing Gears. So there's that. Night Rose. So Night Rose, yeah, a very good combo deck. Has good kill pressure, good push pressure. and has probably the high ceiling in the game for their kill time. So yeah. Next up we have Altmile, which brought basically one card, but that one card fixed basically all the issues with the deck. And the with the Tengen Altmile, or the Transcending Altmile. Altmile before was a deck that was just really good at pushing you to 5 and then just kind of whittled away like 2 maybe 3 checks a turn. Now they push you to 5 really fast and they check you for like 5 guards in a turn, and you're like, damn, I'm just dead here. And they're all really big as well. So who knows, adding a finisher to a deck that was really good at pushing at 5 will make the deck good. So yeah. Altmile before already was really good at pushing. They just couldn't end games. Now they can push and end games. And they can actually scale their columns above 21. They do have the boost to do it, but they still can't scale over, meaning they can still attack with Vanguard. So they don't do too terribly bad against Asha either. So yeah. Altmile, combo deck. Combo deck that can deal with the best deck. Has a really powerful kill turn and is really good at pushing. So all those qualities together make, in my opinion, make Altmile a really powerful deck. Probably the second best deck behind the boogeyman of the current meta, Asha. So Asha before was a terrible deck. I thought this deck was like tier 4 unplayable dog shit. Probably an exaggeration, but regardless, not a good deck. But with the introduction of a singular card, this deck is now suddenly the best deck in the game. So and that one card is not even a GR. It's the triple. It's the grade 2 Thuria, the resist grade 2. That card is so dumb in conjunction with Jingle Flower. Because Thuria, if you don't know what it does, it copies the names of everything. Not just one card, it copies the names of everything. It keeps it forever until it leaves the board. And if it copies, and since it's all the names of everything on the board, if you give the Jingle Flower skill to it, you get 21k intercepts. And let's just say 21k intercepts with resist. Most decks cannot deal with that. And since because the board, what it usually looks like, it's Thuria in the front row, boosters, and then a Thuria behind the Vanguard. That Thuria behind the Vanguard, unless it's a mass board wipe skill, cannot be gotten rid of with basically anything. So the Jingle Flower skill is just there, and then the 2 resists in the front are resist intercept, meaning unless you have something like a Root Flare to deal with it, you can't retire those either. So you have to actually run into them. And most decks cannot make 21k rear columns. Very few decks can actually do that. Altmile can do it. Night Rose can do it. Bermuda can do it, but it's not convenient for them because they have to be playing Manya to do it. Aquaforce just dies to Jingle Flower on that turn. Same with the Angel Feather. They can do it, but then still be on a 1 pass hit the Vanguard. Vanquisher can just bind it so they can't loop it more than once. So Vanquisher can deal with that, and then Brawlers actually can't do it. Brawl just punch the entire board. And something to note, I guess Gears can deal with it. Gears can upheaval the entire board away and reswap them out because you upheaval. It gets rid of it gets rid of the Jingle Flower skill, so is that. But Gears kind of suck overall, so that's why I don't really care about that. But yeah, Jingle Flower plus Thuria is like the dumbest thing I've seen in a while. It has okay kill pressure once you slowly push them. It just kind of like sits there stallings for like a turn or two, maybe pushing for like 2 damage a turn, and then once you're at 5, they can Dream Spinning you, or they can Primavera you. But yeah, basically the takeaway from this is that having 21k intercepts is really stupid. Like 2 lanes of double 21k intercepts is like dumb as hell. Lost Memory also draws you a bunch of cards, so you can actually draw into all your pieces. And then just how the deck works, you can recycle all your pieces really well with like Pia, Thuria herself, Primavera, and all that good stuff. So the deck, just how it's played, it's just really degenerate. For ladder, it's kind of not as good just because Naru is like somewhat popular, and that deck's like Naru is probably this deck's worst matchup. But for tournament play, Asha is by far the best deck to play, no doubts, no questions asked. If you just look at the recent JP Grand Finals, 7 out of 8 people brought Neo Nectar, and it was banned almost every single time because no one wanted to deal with 21k intercepts. So yeah, yeah, Asha, unironically the best deck right now in the game. So yeah, so that's it for this month's tier list. Tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.